Dear editorial staff, a post on the popular website reddit.com brought to my attention the entry pertaining to the Armenian massacres. Let me start off by making it clear, I am not a historian, nor am I old enough to have had a first-hand account of the events that took place during World War I. From my limited mental capacity and knowledge, I have no doubt World War I was a time of immense human misery and suffering, and a time where tens of millions of people from a multitude of nations perished, not just the Armenians. The major difference between the study of history and other sciences is that at times objective facts temporarily give way to subjective pressure. This pressure does not come from all directions equally, but is usually directed from a specific vested people and interest groups. While historians can focus on the facts and analyze events without personal or emotional investment, interest groups are not intended for that purpose. The function of an encyclopedia is presenting information from historical research and archived historical documents, telegrams, photos, letters, etc. The claim of an Armenian genocide is one often pushed by the alphabet soup of Armenian ethnic lobby groups. Regardless of the historical nuances and important academic debates on the subject, the goal of the lobby remains uncompromising and singular. The subject of Armenian genocide serves as the center of mass for the Armenian national consciousness. To the Armenian community, the belief and propagation of genocide recognition has become as much of an identity as the belief in religious dogma. Merely to insinuate Armenian deaths during World War I did not constitute genocide is blasphemy, and will likely result in a slew of emotionally charged angry responses, death threats, and accusations. This gives me some insight as to the level at which this subject is often being debated. Academics who dare to outright reject the Armenian genocide claims are subject to death threats, harassment, and worse yet false accusations of taking money from the Turks or having Turkish ancestry. The activism for gaining Armenian genocide recognition is not limited to emotionally charged outbursts, threats, and accusations. In the 1970s and 80s, hundreds of Turkish citizens were murdered or injured in often random acts of terrorism by Asala, Armenian secret army for the liberation of Armenia. So initially when I mentioned subjective pressure, it was a bit of an understatement. At times we are talking about outright murder. This is not one or two isolated events and individuals, but a widespread mental illness and antisocial behavior that has its roots in childhood trauma and indoctrination by the orthodoxy, the state as well as the family unit. To any rational person, this is not how historical facts are uncovered. Not being a historian, it would be difficult for me to give a relevant critique of the Armenian massacre article. My point in writing this letter was to alert the editors to the atmosphere surrounding this subject. I have no doubt that Encyclopaedia Britannica seeks to present its readers as accurate information as possible. I am sure the responsibility of fighting ignorance and keeping the trust of your readers weighs heavily on your shoulders. I hope objectivity and the truth always prevails over threats of death and character assassinations. Regards,